Now, does everyone know who Sister Devamata is? I say it like...
No.
Okay. Prior to reading what we are going to read, a reminiscence, I'll read a real short biography. Sister Devamata was a nun of American nationality attached to the Vedanta center called Ananda Ashram, conducted by Swami Ramakrishnananda at La Crescenta, California, in the United States. She was in India during 1908 through 1910. Much of her time in this country was spent at Madras, in close contact with Swami Ramakrishnananda. She has left behind 2 excellent works as a result of her stay in India, known as Days in an Indian Monastery and Sri Ramakrishna and His Disciples. Both of these are largely based on the conversation she had with Swami Ramakrishnananda. Her book, The Days in an Indian Monastery, is an excellent work on Indian life and culture, and several chapters of it deal exclusively with Swami Ramakrishnananda and his work at Madras and Bangalore. We have quoted profusely from her books in the biographical section. Her reminiscences given in this book form an independent writing, giving an excellent pen picture of Swami Ramakrishnananda and his way of life and thought. Okay, so now we will go to page 167 in my copy of the book, second paragraph. My close association with Swami Ramakrishnananda counts among my most precious Indian memories. Apart from our official relation as superior and member of the rank and file in the religious order to which we both belonged, the warmest friendship existed between us, a friendship mellowed on my side by profound reverence, and on his side by a mother-like solicitude for my well-being. He shared the riches of his thought and living with me unstintingly and gave me a most generous confidence. When a turn of circumstance forced me to open a letter bearing his name, and I explained the incident to him, his reply was, "You are free to open all my letters. I have no secrets from you." No words define more aptly Swami's haughtiness, but in reality he was the humblest of men. Humility was fundamental with him. It was more than mere absence of pride. It sprang from complete self-forgetting. There was no place in his consciousness for anything but his master. What St. Paul declared in his epistle to the Galatians, "Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me," described perfectly Swami Ramakrishnananda's attitude toward himself and toward that one whom he called Guru. He was dead wholly to himself and alive only in Sri Ramakrishna. His coming and going, his eating and sleeping, his labor and his teaching, his entire living, took their rise in the will of the Master, never in his own desire or convenience. Those who saw him carry his Master's picture pressed close to his heart. His body bent over it in protection as he walked through the rain from the carriage to the entrance of the new mott at Mylapore, when he moved the shrine there from the ice house, could appreciate the tenderness of love, the power of devotion to his Guru, which transfused his being. He could say of his Master as truly as did St. Paul of his, "The life I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith in the Son of God." His feeling was shown in these words spoken to me one day. If we are caught in a labyrinth and someone comes and says, "I can show you the way out," what do? Follow him. And the gratitude we feel is what we call worship and devotion. This person is the Guru, and we should follow him implicitly if we want to escape from the labyrinth. Sometimes, however, we think, why should I follow him? Let me find my own way. So we go off by ourselves. But he is always so patient and loving that he waits until we grow weary trying to find the way alone and come back to him. The work of the Guru is done in a very few minutes, he said again as we sat together one evening in the mott at Mylapore. By a few simple words, the Guru gives a new turn to the life. Just as when a man is riding a bicycle, someone sees that the road he is taking will lead to danger, so he turns him around and starts him in another direction. The man keeps on pedaling as before, and the bicycle keeps on moving, but now the man is moving away from danger instead of toward it. Similarly, the Guru sees that the direction you have taken is dangerous, so he turns you around. All your activities may go on as before. You may keep on pedaling just the same, but now you are riding in a safe direction. The Guru's work is to give the turn in the right direction. Swami Ramakrishnananda was too essentially a disciple in spirit to take the position of Guru. He had many devoted followers, but he never spoke of them or thought of them as disciples, nor was he willing to assume the direction of a life. He gave encouragement, hope, ready forgiveness for failures and mistakes, but he believed it was good for a man to solve his own problems and make his own decisions. He set a very high standard for those about him. He expected them to face situations like men. No whining or complaining, no striking back when rebuked, no idleness, no weakness, and no giving up the fight. Man is a hero so long as he struggles, were his own words. Above all, the Swami gave no quarter to egotism and selfishness. To him, spirituality meant self-abandonment. Those who were leading the spiritual life must make no compromises with the ego. When man asserts himself in man, he commits all sorts of atrocities. It is true that every soul, so long as it is in a body, has a little bit of ego. If there were no ego, there would be no soul. For take away the ego, and what remains? Only God. A sannyasin can never afford to be selfish. He should be as willing to help his worst enemy as he is to serve his best friend. It is for this we have become sannyasins, to bring help to every living being without regard to what he does or does not do to us. One evening, several visitors were gathered with the Swami in the hall of the old Mylapore Mat. I too happened to be present. Someone spoke of a certain sannyasin who had exceptional strength and vigor, but spent little of it in service to others. Swami Ramakrishnananda remarked with a note of scorn in his tone, "It is easy for the selfish man to be strong and healthy. Perhaps it is raining and someone comes to say such and such. A man is ill with fever. The selfish man says, 'It would not be prudent for me to go out in the rain. I might fall ill myself.' Tell him I'm sorry, but I cannot come. When it stops raining, I may come." The unselfish man tucks his cloth up, wraps a chadar around his shoulders, and hurries out through the rain to the sick man, not stopping to calculate risk or discomfort. Swami Vivekananda, if he heard that a friend was suffering from fever, would rush out and go to him, even in the worst storm. He was willing to give his life to save the life of another. A selfish man will not venture out in stormy weather, even if his own wife is ill. He says, "If she dies, I can always marry again. But if I die, who will marry?" Such a man is sure to enjoy good health. That's quite a picture. So long as we are selfish, our work must be fruitless. We may deliver fine lectures, we may gain name and fame, but the actual results will be nil. The moment, however, our little self disappears, at that moment our real work begins. Then we may live an obscure life and go nowhere, but we shall accomplish wonders. When we drop the ego from our consciousness and live in God, we have unlimited power. God is the only existence that is real. All other existences are unrealities, behind which God exists as the reality. This Maya is so irresistible, and it is this Maya which makes us selfish. Only when God is gracious to us can we lift the veil and get a glimpse of Him. Then all selfishness drops off. The word selfishness is not always understood. When by self I understand the body or the little self, and I do something for that self, I'm selfish. But there is a self which is beyond this physical body. When I do something for that self, that is worshiping God. The man who lives in the higher self is never selfish. Try to feel God inside yourself, and you will overcome all selfishness. When you live constantly in the presence of divinity, the ego loses its power. But so long as the ego rules a man, he is a bond slave. All your anxieties and worries come from egotism and selfishness. Let go your little self and they will all disappear. To find favor in Swami Ramakrishna's eyes, one had to be genuine. The Swami showed little patience with the pharisaical type of spirituality that fasts to be seen by men. For a time there was a boy at the Mylapore Mutt whom I liked very much. He had a pleasant disposition and a friendly manner. Swami Ramakrishna was kind to him and seldom rebuked him, but accepted very little service from him. I wondered at it. Only later did I understand. One early morning, the boy left the Mutt and did not return. He was tired of work and wished to meditate. Swami Ramakrishnananda smiled and said, "He will not go far in the religious life. He's not sincere. When he claimed to be fasting, he would slip off by himself and eat something. And when after his bath he would sit in meditation, he would lie down on his mat and sleep. He thought I did not know. That way you cannot get anywhere. You must be genuine if you would advance in the spiritual life. You may cheat a man for a time, but you cannot cheat God, nor can you deceive the world for long. Your face, your tone, your manner will betray you." And that's the end of the first section. Any questions or comments? We'll go on to section 2 of her reminiscences. Okay. With the great majority who take up the religious life, renunciation is a reiterated process. They drop the world and pick it up again, then drop it, until renouncing by force of increasing repetition becomes a daily act and a daily struggle. The reason of this is they do not renounce that in themselves which ties them to the world. This was preeminently untrue of Swami Ramakrishnananda. He made one sweeping act of renunciation, and all the cords that bound him to family, social relations, pride of caste, ambition, and desire for name and fame hung loose and severed. He cut the innermost cord. He renounced himself. His detachment was complete. I saw him meet disappointment, criticism, condemnation, antagonism, waxing and waning of his work, even loss by death, with a smile on his face. He would sit cross-legged on a rug near the north door of the monastery hall in the earlier mott at Mylapore, his powerful body bare to the waist, as was the custom under the burning skies of Madras, one hand holding his foot and rocking gently back and forth with rhythmic regularity. Thus he would sit and tell me quite casually of some blow that had been struck at his calm and his courage. He was not unfeeling. If we cannot love others, if we cannot serve others, what are we here for? Were the frequent words from his lips. His heart was large and generous, overflowing with dispassionate love. But he was a sannyasin, one who had renounced. And that meant he must be even-minded in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, victory and defeat. When a man is vilified, yet shows no resentment or even annoyance, he said one day, you may be sure he has conquered his ego and is completely detached. It must not be imagined, however, that Swami Ramakrishnananda possessed a placid personality. He was too powerful, too positive in his reactions to be placid. Placidity is passive, negative, the absence of disturbance, not the result of a struggle lived out. True serenity, on the contrary, is the fruit of storm. It is the quiet of the harbor after riding the gale. It contains a depth, a latent force, which could spring from nothing else. All great souls who labor for humanity are storm-swept at times. Christ drove the money changers before his wrath. He dealt scorching rebuke to the Pharisees. Swami Ramakrishnananda too had his moments of righteous indignation. The cause never lay in himself. Any attack or hostility directed against him left him unmoved. It was disloyalty to the ideal, negligence or carelessness in the Lord's service, disrespect toward that which was sacred and holy, hypocrisy, insincerity. These were the things that roused him, as they did the prophets of old. The Swami rarely discussed worldly affairs. He did not read the newspapers. To the lay mind, he might have seemed lacking in human interest. But in reality, he was keenly concerned for his fellow men. He believed, however, that true interest consisted not in remaining human with them, but in helping them become divine. Those who give up the world for the spiritual life are giving up the uncertain for the certain, the passing for the permanent, he reiterated. It was inevitable from this attitude of mind that he should dwell with great insistence on the value of renunciation. All our power comes from renunciation, he declared again and again. Only when we have given up our life do we begin to live. At present, we are like prisoners. We may get a glimpse of freedom now and then, but the world falls upon us when we are off our guard and drags us back once more into our prison cell. As soon as a man finds out, however, that these little pleasures of the flesh are nothing compared with the infinite pleasures of the spirit, he wants to renounce, not for the sake of renunciation, but because he has found something better. He has realized the hollowness of the enjoyment of the world and can be satisfied only with higher enjoyment. Renunciation means giving up a lesser thing for a greater. I saw Swami Ramakrishnananda very seldom during the heated hours of the day. But when the evening coolness began to fall, tempering the sun-scorch of midday, I would go across to the monastery, accomplish the simple duties I was allotted there, and assist at arati. Then I would take my place on the rug near the Swami in the monastery hall and listen. Listen so intently that I was able to go home and write down later all that I had heard. Sometimes others were present, sometimes we were alone, but always the Swami talked with the same ardor of feeling. One evening that is vivid in my memory, he spoke at length of the elusive spell which the world casts over us. As long as there is intense struggle, he said, there are still desires which tie us to the world. We have not realized yet its complete hollowness. When we realize that, the way is easy. The world is a place where the unreal appears to be real, and the real appears unreal. Maya makes us believe something to be where there is nothing, and nothing to be where there is something. It makes weakness seem all-powerful, and the powerful seem weak. The poor sage in the forest, whose loincloth is of bark, and whose bed is the bare ground, appears to the world as a weakling, while the king on his throne in a glittering palace appears to be strong. But in reality, it is the sage that is powerful. Compared to him, the king on his throne is nothing. Recognizing this, kings in ancient times, when a sage came to their court, would come down from their throne and prostrate in the dust before him. The charm of Maya is so irresistible. It is only when God is gracious to us that we can lift the veil and get a little glimpse of him. All Maya is localized in ego. Pull out the foundation and the whole house will collapse. Take away the ego and the whole structure of Maya will fall. Then you will realize a state of perfect calmness. Maya traps us through the senses. He who has conquered his senses has conquered the whole universe. If a man should see God, what would he ask for? Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, said once, houses and lands? No. God vision, nothing less would seem worthwhile. So it was with Swami Ramakrishnananda. He had no quarrel with the world. He recognized its charm and beauty, but he knew that the charm was ephemeral, that beauty fleeting, while beneath them lay hidden the unchanging and everlasting. Seek that, and that only was his constant cry. Do not be content with the little finite things of this world. Do not be satisfied with anything short of infinite. Let your ambition be infinity. Give up because you know that what you throw away is perishable. What you gain is imperishable and eternal. The more you can fix your mind on God and forget yourself, the more quickly will this be done. These words strike the keynote of the Swami's teachings. They were a continuous call to infinitude. As it was through our desires that the world held us captive, he waged relentless war against the tyranny of desire. It is not easy, he said one evening as we talked together, to free the mind of desires. God alone can do it. A man who has no idea of God will never get rid of desires. He will say, if I have no desire, what difference will there be between me and the wall? It is desire alone that gives me enjoyment. For every desire there is satisfaction in the world. Why then should I give up desire? The man who has devotion for God, however, sees that instead of bringing enjoyment, these desires are the source of all his unhappiness. He realizes that in God alone can he find satisfaction for all desires. God is infinite bliss, and all other happiness is finite and perishable. Hence, nowhere but in him can true happiness be found, a happiness that has no break. And I think that's a good break in our reading. We'll start the third one of her reminiscences, the third section of reminiscences next week. So any questions or comments about what we have read? We've got a strong dose of renunciation, and I hope everyone listened really carefully. It's giving up a lesser thing for a greater thing. It's not giving up what you want.
I gave up my hair, Krishna. Does that count?
Sure. Why not, John? Half the world is giving up their hair now. Oh, I'm going to tell you. Yeah, I will tell you this. No, I can't remember how it went, so I won't tell you because I just mess it up. Okay, so this Sunday, first of all, Saturday we will have a gospel reading at 5 o'clock. Sunday we will have a talk by Swami Divyananda, who's one of the vice presidents of the Ramakrishna Mountain Mission in Calcutta. And his topic will be Sri Sarada Devi, Mother of All. Now, I believe this is his first trip to the U.S. This is his first trip to the United States. And he must be in his 60s at least. Probably 70s, because they don't usually become one of the vice presidents until they have reached that degree of seniority. And then, of course, Wednesday the 4th, we'll have some more of Devamata's reminiscences. And Saturday the 7th, we are going to have a Karma Yoga Day. And we will have various things for people to do. Come 9:15, stay for lunch with us. I wish those of you that were on Zoom could come and stay for lunch with us, but we know you're here in spirit. Are there any questions about anything? That was pretty clear. Devamata saying exactly what he said, and what he said was stated very clearly. We have to realize God. That is our purpose in life. So we will see you Saturday, I guess, at the gospel reading if you're here. Okay. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Panamastu. We'll see you. Everyone take care, stay healthy, and have a good Labor Day weekend.